Welcome to our episode of Bargain Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at the return of Rin Tin Tin, the final movie I have to cover in this pack of 8 films. Yeah, I know this is going to be come out before a couple of the other films in this series, but this one was discussed last, hence it's the numbering. Because it's based on the order I did the reviews in, not necessarily when they're going to come out. As weird as it is. I'm a bit lazy with moving stuff around after a while. Because I figure, it doesn't matter that much. There'll be an order, in the playlist, by number at least. At any rate, we're getting sidetracked. We need to talk about, the return of Rin Tin Tin, which is about a boy and his dog, and kicks off with Paul having a nightmare because he survived. He's an orphan from World War II and lost, his parents and his younger sibling, during the war. And was basically forced to fight with other kids over scraps of bread at night because he'd come out of the cellar, the burnt out remnants of his home, to throw punches. Because, what else are the street rats gonna do? Like, they got nowhere to go, really. It's wartime. War sucks. But apparently he was adopted, after the war was over by the best friend of his mother who lives in the States, so he was brought stateside. But he doesn't trust people anymore after all the stuff he went through. And, his new adopted mom's like, if we don't start getting along, the state's going to take you away from me, potentially. Because, it's hard to explain, why our relationship is just so strained. Without seeming like you're being abused or something to make you act the way you are. Because, he's distant from everybody. Like, he wants nothing to do with people because he's lost his faith in humanity after all the stuff he went through. So his new adopted mom's just, he should go spend the summer, now that school's out, at a monastery, like he can spend time, with the sheep and goats and the cow.
Oh, you'd have a lot of fun there playing in the fields with the animals. You know, they have some sheep and a cow and a goat.
See if that'll help him, start the trust in something again. To help him, move back on being, willing to accept people back into his life again as well. And of course, while he's at the monastery, Rin escapes from his owner by jumping at his door for his fenced-in cage, and this causes it to like dip forward because I guess the hinges aren't done correctly. So yeah, Rin gets away, and we then get a montage of watching a dog run, through swim through water, run over mountains, and do all that stuff. and eventually ends up at the monastery, where he's brought in and accepted. Because like, you really think the monks are gonna go looking for the owner of a dog? As they put, like they're worried about godly things, spiritual things. They ain't got time to go deal with this worldly matter of finding an owner of a dog that could be anywhere, nearby. Like, who knows how far this dog ran away? I mean, maybe it's a stray the guy kicked out of his house, and doesn't care about it anymore. And as the one monk puts it, he's like, well, it gives Paul something to bond with because he does get close to the dog after pretty quickly. And of course, the owner eventually shows up and takes the dog away. Because of course he would take the dog away. It's a show dog that he spent thousands of dollars on. It's not just any dog, it's the German Shepherd. Of course, Rinty then escapes again, because, you can't keep a good dog down by basically hitting the door really hard again, just completely breaking it, and then runs away. Of course, now the owner knows where the dog's going. He's like, he's going back to that boy again. Like, ugh. So he has to drive all the way back to the monastery and basically tells the kid, like, if the dog comes back again, like, you chase the dog away. Because, if that dog doesn't come back home, I'll whip it. I'll whip it good. So, of course, Rinty escapes again, and by just jumping at the fence and climbing over the top. Of course, the owner is, standing nearby behind a tree and just grabs the dog. And Rinty doesn't like this and starts biting him, in his hand on his hand. So he starts responding by hitting him back with a stick. But let's face it, you're not gonna really win a fight with a dog. If the dog wants to take you down, if it's a German Shepherd, you're probably gonna be eating the floor sooner rather than later. So he basically gets tossed and tugged all over the place until eventually, he falls down. And he's like, you know what? I've spent enough time on this. Time to run away again properly, and just runs out the door and heads back to the monastery again. But the boy's like, no, you can't stay here, Rinty. He'll whip you, and throws a hammer or something at the dog. So Rinty's like, I gotta back off, and I'm still hanging around, but I'm very sad that I'm not wanted anymore. So of course Paul complains about how I need to leave my window open in case Rinty comes back, because maybe he'll realize I didn't really mean it. And of course the owner shows up and is furious because he's like, the dog's a menace to society. You ruined this dog. It bit me. Like, I gotta put it down before it kills somebody or something. So, he's like, it has to be back here again, because it always comes back here. And they're like, we chased it off, like you asked. He's like, fine, I'll look for it myself then. And of course, ends up following a dog, though if it was Rinty, I don't know. Like, maybe it was one of the wild dogs in the area. And eventually, he gets led off the side of, like, a hill or something, that just has a steep drop on it, and ends up breaking a leg. And drops his gun, so now he's helpless before a whole bunch of wild dogs, but Rinty comes comes to the rescue and saves him. Then goes to get, Paul and the monk to, help get him to safety after, he'd fought the coyotes, wild dogs off. And, happily ever after, because now the owner is just like, you know what, I will sell you that dog, because, it's obviously a menace as far as I'm concerned, because it don't like me, but, you can have it, $200. So, yeah, I guess a happily ever after there, but I do have a few complaints about the film. One, it seems a bit odd that he'd have an adoptive mom in this film, and yet she doesn't spend really any time trying to really bond with him, as far as we can tell. She's like, I'll foist that job off onto some friends of mine. Just hope they fix the issue, because apparently she's like, I give up. I don't have the skills. It just feels a bit weak that she's barely in the movie. I know it's 65 minutes and it's meant to be a boy and his dog film, but it feels like she should have had a more practical part in this movie. Another issue, and this is more of a technical issue. At the night shots, you can't really see anything that's going on. I'm not even kidding. Like when you watch the big fight between Rinty and the wild dogs, it's so dark, you can't see like anything. Like it's just you hear dogs growling and barking and stuff like that, and that's basically all you get. And whimpering obviously too when they get hurt. So there's literally nothing to see during that entire sequence.
Come here.
I guess a third issue is that we get multiple montages of Rinty running away, and I'm gonna be honest, they could probably be shorter, especially after the first one. Like the first one's a bit too much on the long side, in my opinion, because it doesn't have a song that really works with what they're showing. But when you have a second and third montage of this dog just running away and jumping in the back of people's vehicles, so it can cover long distances faster and stuff, it does in fact feel a bit much. Just like we see the dog running away, we know where Rinty's going. You don't have to spend like 2-3 minutes showing the dog running in the streets. Like we already know, Rinty's going back to the monastery because it's a boy and his dog movie. So yeah, like the movie feels like you could chop off a good like 10 plus minutes potentially out of it, and you wouldn't really lose much. So yeah, I have my complaints with it, but as an overall package, it's obviously a cheaply done movie, but it does feel like the people that were acting it are being sincere to the best of their abilities. So I can't hate it. It's just a bit underwhelming, especially because we have the biggest action sequence of the movie being shot so poorly you can't see what's happening. Like they could have literally pointed the camera at the sky and it would have made no difference really. Till next time then. See ya.